This episode of the Sports Box is sponsored by DJ Cruz, aka Anthony Cruz. For all your DJ and event planning needs, call Anthony at 609-513-6395 and mention you saw him on the Sports Box.
Well, hello and welcome to the Sports Box, where the only opinion that matters is right here. You got to get me something to throw, for crying out loud. This has got to stop, okay?
I'm just trying to, save the walls in the house.
I am Mike Aletta, a.k.a. Hamilton Mike, along with my partner, Brian, the Ranger Retard. Today we're going to talk... Well, Brian, how are you?
I'm good. I'm real good. I appreciate all of our subscribers. They make me feel good about that Cowboys loss against Green Bay, so I'm dealing with it. I'm adjusting like an adult.
And if you want to get more of Brian's anger, you can always get us on social media. Brian, you can
I have a lot of anger on social media. It's Facebook and Twitter, both at Sports Buck Show, and of course, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel here. We've got a lot of great subscribers over the past couple weeks. Can't thank you guys enough. Continue. We appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so. You'll see the Sports Box logo over here at the end of the show. Easy way to do it. So please, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about the Philadelphia Flyers, and I think something that should be brought up is the controversy in goal about Steve Mason and Michal Neuvirth. Talk about what's going on back and forth, can't find the right guy. They took a 5-0 loss yesterday to the Capitals, and that hurts. And we have talked about this before. Flyers coming off that 10-game winning streak a while back. I said the main thing is in any team coming off a streak like that is to maintain. Not necessarily having to win 2 or 3 or 5 again and go on a streak. But when you come off that, you can't just nosedive off of that because that just ruins the whole streak of what you've done. It just does nothing. You're right back to normal. And Brian, we've been talking about this. You're right back to square one again. This team is in a nosedive and spiraling fast. I don't know what you're going to do to get out of it. But as for the controversy, I think you've got to stay with one guy and roll with him. This team is jumping back and forth between goaltenders. Neuvirth was hurt for a while. You went with Mason. You let him get hot, and then all of a sudden you got a little bit cold. But you got to stay with Mason. Do you switch over to Michal Neuvirth? Here's a guy who's been a traveling guy around the league. He's been with Buffalo. He's been with Washington. I'm not saying he's not fit to be a starter, but I think you go with Mason for a little while, switch off a little bit to Neuvirth, but I think you stay with Mason for the time being.
So I'm looking here. I apologize for counting. I mean, this is a streak they're on here. I mean, they've lost 11 of 14 after the 10-game winning streak. And you look back at who the goalies were. If you look back at what Mason's done in his past couple starts, lost 1, lost 2, lost 3, lost 4, lost 5, lost 6, lost 7, lost 8. He's lost about 8 straight. I mean, and the only win to make it not 10 is that shootout against Washington. Yeah. I think, I talk to a lot of Flyers fans who are not on the Steve Mason bandwagon at all. I think this experiment may be over for the Flyers. I don't know what it is about this guy, but he just doesn't ever seem to put it together, and that's really why he came so cheaply from Columbus in a deal that the Flyers made. I prefer Neuvirth to Mason from a skill standpoint and an ability standpoint. Neuvirth's big thing is he hasn't been able to stay healthy his whole career, and that's valid. Yeah. But while he's out there, he seems to spark the team a little bit. They're on their version of the bye week now in hockey, so they have some time to kind of figure this out. They come back Saturday on the 21st with 3 straight divisional games up against the Jersey, the Islanders, and the Rangers. They got to figure this out, Mike. I think back to the 2014 season when Mason had his best year in his career. Mm-hmm. He was a Flyer at that point. Would have been a great trade target for a lot of teams, and they didn't do that. Mm-hmm. I just don't know how you can start with confidence right now.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Mason's the answer by any means. I think the Flyers, again, need another goaltender. And we've said that before, that they need to go out and get a top-notch goaltender, which they haven't been able to have a solid goaltender since the days of Hextall, which is sad.
And they've had a lot of tries at it, too.
They've had a bunch of tries at it. You've gone out and got Brizgalov. At the time when he was the hottest guy out there, you paid him all that money, he was a bust. A bunch of guys they brought in, it hasn't worked out. And I'm not saying by any means that Mason is the answer. I'm saying you have to kind of tier this thing and get some stability in your goaltender. Now, Neuvirth in net, okay, couple games you go with him now. Do you go back to Mason? Do you keep going back and forth? If you're going to stay with one guy, you got to roll with him. Even though Mason's played bad, I think maybe you go with Michal Neuvirth for a little while, maybe a couple games to get him rolling again. Go back to Mason and hope he picks up the pieces again, because he's mainly your number one guy. Neuvirth wasn't brought in here to be number one guy. He was in to challenge Mason to kick him in the ass and get him rolling. I think you stay with Steve Mason for the time being. Playoffs are a different story. Playoffs, if you do get to the playoffs, then it's a whole different animal. But I know what you're going to tell me. If Mason keeps playing, they might not get to the playoffs because he's on a downward spiral.
Well, they might not get there anyway, but I mean, at some point you have to cut your losses here. These guys are both free agents at the end of the season. I don't know if either of them are going to be brought back. I would challenge you guys to talk to your Flyers fan friends, see how many people actually want Mason back in his uniform next year. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near where you think.
Then the only thing you can do right now is maybe flip flop for now and see which one really wants.
But
to
is that
play.
really a solution?
Absolutely not. But what else do you do at this point? Maybe you go with Mason for a couple games, then go with Neuvirth for 3. Then you go back to Steve Mason for 3 or 4. Then you go back to Neuvirth and see where you're at.
Or you trade one and start Stolars. At least that's building towards something.
I don't think you could trade either one of them right now. I don't think you'd get much for either one of them. Not something you built for the future for. You trade Mason and you go with Neuvirth. What are you going to get from Mason? You're not going to get a lot. You're not going to get much at all.
Well, a lot has been said, are the Flyers not playing that well defensively? And I think if you expect them to, you're kind of being a little short-sighted here because their defense is largely very, very young. And defensive positioning takes a long time to learn in the NHL. So even though a guy like Gostisbehere came, on fire,
who's playing terrible
in his rookie year, he sophomore slump. It happens. I'm not going to give up on that player because he's had a bad run here. Yeah. But a lot of these these young defensemen, it takes a long time to really get defensive positioning. I mean, defensemen take so much longer to develop. I look back at the Rangers and Michael Del Zotto. That didn't work out, and he ended up moving ironically to the Flyers over time. I just think you're asking a lot of a young defense to make up for the.
Trials and tribulations with the goaltender.
Yeah, frankly. I mean, it's not you don't have Patrick Waugh back there, so it's not like they're going to look that great to begin with. I don't know if it's chicken or the egg, I guess, what I'm trying to drive at. I don't know if it's the defense is the problem or the goalie's the problem. It's probably a pleasant mix of both, but you got to do something.
If you trade Mason, I don't think you're going to get much for him because he's on a losing streak, and he's not playing well. So if you trade him, and then you go with Stolars and Neuvirth the rest of the year, I mean, how reliable is that for a goaltender? Now you're bringing a kid up who's only played a handful of games this year. He's played well, but now you're asking him to kind of, back up Michal Neuvirth if Neuvirth struggles or even gets hurt.
They asked the same of Provorov and Konechny, and they're doing okay. If you're on a youth movement, have a youth movement.
Yeah. I think the Flyers eventually are going to get that way, but again, I always patronize Hextall. I think Hextall's doing a good job, and I'm sure he sees the prize there, and he's going to make some kind of move or. If he has to move one of the goalies, like Brian said, we got to move one of the goalies. We got to get this thing straightened out. I mean, it's mid-season. It's almost the All-Star break, so they do have time to get this thing turned around. But they are spiraling out of control right now.
But what they have to do is get younger. I mean, the strength of this team is all of the youth and the drafting they've done. They've done such a great job in building this stockpile of players. Again, I'm looking at my veterans who are 30 and up, or about to be there, and I'm trading them for youth. And again, I was lambasted for this. I'm going to say it again. They should be looking to trade Claude Giroux. Yeah. I'm not going to stick. I'm not.
Well, that's going to be a whole other episode. We're not going to get back into that.
That's all I'm saying. You have to look at it. That's all.
Exactly. And we will.
We will. Because once football's over, we have a lot of new.
We'll have a lot of time to look at it.
That's true.
Sure. So, thanks for watching this episode about the Flyers goaltending controversy. Keep an eye out. We always have good stuff coming.
Absolutely, and the good stuff's always on Twitter and Facebook, both at Sportsbox Show. But our YouTube subscribers get it before anybody else does, and I know that there's about 400 of you now. We appreciate that so much. Make sure if you haven't subscribed yet, you're going to see our logo populate right about here. Go ahead and click that and subscribe. We appreciate it. We're going to give you a lot of great content, so make sure that you're keeping up with us.
Keep an eye out. We always have good stuff coming. We're going to talk about all the sports. If you want to talk about a certain thing, write in. Let us know. We're more than happy to get it on for you. Because remember, at the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters is right here. Thanks for watching. See you. 3.
Don't forget to subscribe.